everyone, and welcome in. This is Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and welcome to the Mad Science Lab podcast. Hello. Today we are here for the NFL Week 9 Fantasy Football AFC home games preview. It's been a long day, man. Recap show. We've got Dolphins, Chiefs, Seahawks, Ravens, Cardinals, Browns, Bucks, Texans, Commanders, Patriots, and Giants at Raiders. I, in my little Rat Pack group, have 7 co-hosts, and yet that's not any of them. I have been abandoned tonight, and I have a pinch hitter that would be Calvin Timms of Dynasty After Dark podcast. How's it going, Calvin?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Long day of football, but started early and some wild ups and downs, but we got there. Some good games too.
I am very familiar with a lot of the late games. I'm not very familiar at all with the 1 o'clock slate. I watched the 9 a.m. games. Then I had my kid went to his best friend's birthday party, and then it was Pokemon Community Day. I watched a lot of game highlights at 1 o'clock, but not a lot of actual games at 1 o'clock. So we're going to be going off the stat sheet for me. Thanks for pinch hitting here.
Sure.
9 people in the live show at noon, but come 8 o'clock, nobody's around. And I see them on Twitter, but nobody has the time to do it. Lazy bastards. So we will get right into it. Our first game I'm going to bring up here, we've got the Dolphins and the Chiefs. I will start with the injury news. I'm going off of my buddy Deepak off of Twitter for his injury breakdowns. Again, this is not definitive, but it's his opinion at Sport MD Analysis. That's Deepak Chona. So the only injury in this game he has listed as Dolphins Jalen Waddle, mild MCL sprain, but returned. No lingering impact projected for Week 11. Week 10 is a bye. So that's good to see. We have actually one game that looks like there were no major injuries because it wasn't quite the quarterback apocalypse we had last week, but it wasn't a good one. So
right. Yeah, definitely not the best situation. As you get deeper in the season, those injuries start to hurt a little bit more for some of those guys. But
the amazing thing is, it's not the Keenan Allens, it's the Jalen Waddle. Like, you're 23 years old. Why are you hurt so much? I can tell you one thing, he's got to be the most frustrating receiver I own because he's young and has high upside. He's hurt every game. He leaves the game at some point. I can't remember having a game where he didn't leave it, but let's take a look at some of these here. The quarterbacks, Mahomes was not great, but he was good enough. He had 185 yards and 2 touchdowns, 22 fantasy points. Tua, I had my bold prediction on Fantasy Pros was that Derek Carr would outscore Tua in fantasy, and I was right. He did what he did against good teams, and he played, not that well. 193 yards and a touchdown. That would be good for 16 points. Down to the running backs, we have Mostert had a good game, 85 yards and a touchdown. Nobody else on the Dolphins running back room was that good. Rough day for Pacheco. He had 66 yards for 8.5 fantasy points. McKinnon had, what did he do here? Oh, it's the touchdown. I was going to say 2 yards. How the hell did he have 10 points? The touchdown. He has a receiving touchdown to salvage a useless day. The receivers, nobody was great. Tyreek had 62 yards. He put up 11 points. Cedric Wilson had 10 points, 9 points for Waddle, 9 for Rashee Rice, who looked like he was going to start off with a monster day, but didn't quite get there. Then we have at tight end, nobody really did anything relevant, which is amazing because Travis Kelce is on this roster. He had 3 for 14. I managed to click on the one league I have that doesn't have kickers. So Chiefs defense was awesome. Dolphins defense was not. I imagine nobody started either of these defenses because it's a scary situation. But
I started the Chiefs actually in multiple leagues. Where the only leagues where I have defenses, I actually was able to start both leagues, the Chiefs, and it did not hurt me at all. So was not complaining about that. But no, the kickers were terrible. No field goals even attempted. This game was kind of rough. I don't know if I think you said you watched.
Yeah, I watched this one. Yeah.
It was just it was such a defensive slog where neither team really even got past the 50 many times except for the touchdowns. It was just kind of a disappointing game for what everybody wanted to kind of see as a shootout. But sometimes. I don't know if it's because it was in Germany or what. I know that they don't love the fields over there, so maybe that has something to do with it. But
the Chiefs came out fire and looked great in the first half, and I was about to post my victory lap tweet at halftime because I was all over the Dolphins being crap. And then
yeah,
the second half, it's like they just kind of shut it down and played, prevent to protect the lead, and we're just happy to leave with a 7-point lead. So,
yep.
what do you think surprising here? I mean, Kelsey, it's a one-off. I'm not sure why he sucks so bad, but
I do think that the Miami defense was pretty good. They've been getting better and better, but at the same time, like you mentioned, Miami against these top teams, they just kind of fold right now. Like they're great. They get the wins that they're supposed to get. They just don't really get the wins against the tough teams. So, hopefully they can. They're just that's their fatal flaw right now, is just playing top teams. So
it's kind of an interesting game. Like nobody was great. Mostert was okay. The receivers, we had Rice looked like he was going to be great. Didn't really do much. Waddle, Hill, nobody was good. Like it's amazing for what could have been a really high scoring, high powered shootout. And I mean, 21-14, it wasn't exactly a 10-3 game, but
right.
No,
the
best play.
Yeah, for sure. The thing that killed Tyreek was that fumble. Like if you have him, it depended on your league settings, the loss for the fumble, but yeah, he would have had a much better game without that. But that fumble just wrecked him. He had two of them actually. The one where they had the defensive touchdown off of it. They forced a fumble off that, and then I think he had a second one later on in the game, so that he got back. But it was just kind of a weird one for Tyreek. But
yeah, it's a weird one all around it. I don't think we can really take anything away from it. I think they're two good teams that are going to have better days offensively. Both defenses are playing pretty good. I think the Chiefs defense is really good. So, it was kind of a disappointing day if you started any of the elite options, unless you had the DSTs, but I don't think you could carry anything forward. Just, keep starting these guys. They're really, really good. We can move on to Seattle, Baltimore. One of the few games. Actually, you know what? There's only 2 games on the AFC slate here that doesn't have, or that do have injuries. All the NFC games look like they had the injuries, but we have Baltimore 37 over Seattle 3. Geno Smith in this league. I'm just 1 sec. Let me check to another league here. I want to know if it's just funky scoring in that league. Okay, I was gonna say, what kind of funky scoring did we have in that one? But the other scoring, he was -4, and this one he's only got 3.5. So I don't know what the hell Iggy. This is Iggy's. That one was the FF7s. I don't know what the hell kind of scoring he had, but Geno was -4 in it. So in this one, we got Geno put up 4. He still sucked. Jackson, not his best day. He had 187 yards for about 11.5 points. My running back stash, who I've been holding forever, finally came through. Keaton Mitchell had a hell of a day, 138 yards and a touchdown for 23 points. Gus Edwards also had a big day. Once again, it was on 2 touchdowns. Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet both sucked. Mainly it's because they were down so much for so long. We see some decent options here. JSN, the 2 wide receiver ones were not who you would have expected. We got JSN had 63 yards. Metcalf, 32 for Lockett. OBJ is the leading receiver here. Zay Flowers disappears. And then we go over to something that actually makes sense here. We have Mark Andrews with 9 for 80 for 21.5. And we'll round it out. Justin Tucker finally had a good game. He has not been great all year. I actually started dropping him. I dropped him in one league for Kai Fairbairn. That looks like it might have been a bad idea because Kai got hurt. The Ravens defense was good, but not as good as I thought it would be. And hopefully you didn't start the Seahawks defense. What do you think here?
The Baltimore defense, man, they I thought they were fluky last week when, going into the Lions matchup a couple weeks ago. I thought that Baltimore was going to be – I thought they were kind of frauds, on the defensive side, and they hadn't really played anybody good. But it turns out this defense is maybe the best in the league right now. It's nuts how good it is, and they're just shutting down everybody. So, Seattle's offense has been struggling, so it kind of – makes sense that Baltimore's defense is playing out of their minds. Seattle's struggling. It just turned into basically the Lions, same thing as the Lions a couple of weeks ago. So if they can keep this up, man, it's great for the actual Baltimore team, but it stinks for fantasy because Lamar, you saw he struggled. He didn't need to do anything. They were up like 3 scores early in this game, and it was just full run the ball and just don't make mistakes. So it was kind of a rough one for fantasy, but I wouldn't hold it against these guys going forward.
It's funny because, well, two things I take away there, but I think there's 6 elite defenses in the league. I think I've got Philly, Dallas, San Fran, and then it's going to be rough because the other 3 elite defenses I have all play in the same division: Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. So that division is going to be tough, but more importantly, Keaton Mitchell. I didn't get to watch a lot of this. This was a 1 o'clock game. I've been on him for a while. Did you happen to catch much of this? Do you think was was he being used as a result of a big lead, or did they look like they were actively using him?
No, they were using him a little bit early, but a lot of his production came later on in the game. I mean, he only had 9 carries, and they really Justice Hill had 13 carries, for example. They were going real heavy with Gus and Justice Hill until the second. I think like halfway through the third is really when Keaton Mitchell started getting more usage, and he busted off a really, really long touchdown run. So yeah, it was kind of a just we're going to pull. Yeah, it was kind of a we're going to pull the starters. We don't really need these guys too much here. I mean, even Tyler Huntley got into the game in the fourth quarter, so they were full on just let's stay healthy here.
I've been stashing him in a lot of leagues, and it's funny because I think the waiver wire is going to lose their mind on him this week.
Yes.
So I'm going to use this as an opportunity to try and sell high as often as I can. Because, like I said, this was not one of the games I got to see because I had, father duty there. So as good as I think he is, that is not a game script where I think it's going to repeat. Although
it might. This defense might be,
52 touchdowns. So
right. This defense, though, they could definitely repeat because they're just shutting down everybody. It feels like that. Even even the Lions, they have a good offense, not an elite offense, but they're just shutting down everybody right now. They're playing out of their minds.
Yeah. Next up was one I was bang on with a lot of my stuff today. I covered Cleveland for High Point, and this is when I went 3 for 3 in my prop video. I hit on all of it. I said, I think it was pretty obvious this one was going to be one-sided, and it played out much like I thought. We had Deshaun Watson looked pretty good, 219-2. Clayton Tune looked like Clayton Tune.
Right.
Jerome Ford was good, not great, only 44 yards. Still looks like he's losing a lot of work to Kareem Hunt. Another case of, did this happen early or late? Because I don't know if they were splitting because of another big lead or not. Like I said, this is the 1 o'clock games I'm going to have to go back and watch because gaps in there for me. So did you catch this one at all? Do you know?
I watch mostly Red Zone. Like I have a couple of games up. Yeah, I have a couple games up, and then I'll watch Red Zone mostly with the other games that I want to like focus on. That's kind of my setup that I use. And this game was so out of hand early that Red Zone like showed nothing of it. Yeah, so I don't really know the usage. I did happen to watch some of the Baltimore one. That's why I knew the Keaton Mitchell one. But yeah, this one I don't know what the game plan was, but Kareem Hunt did have 14 carries, which was pretty wild.
I switched over to on my Twitter, I follow Dave Richard from Fantasy Football Today. He does normally a pretty good breakdown of the snap share, and what he has is snaps with Deshaun Watson in. So I assume they took Watson out in the fourth quarter, but with Watson in and them still playing a normal game, Ford had a 60% snap share. So it looks like a lot of the work that Hunt got came after the big lead. So might be another running back where we don't take too much away from him. On the Arizona side of the ball, Keontae Ingram did nothing. Tony Jones did a little more. Nothing, but not much.
Right.
The receivers, we have a whole lot of nothing on Arizona. 4 for 24 is the best from a Cardinal. That's Hollywood. We only have one useful receiver in the whole game, and it's Amari Cooper went 5 for 139 and a touchdown.
Yep.
So that's good. He looks like he was quite happy to have Deshaun Watson back.
Yes. Yep. Njoku was decent because of the touchdown as well.
Yeah.
4 catches, but not a ton of yardage, which is kind of
Well, yeah.
typical with these guys.
If you want to see what his stat line would look like without the touchdown, just shift over to Trey McBride. It's almost the same stat line.
Right. Yep.
Trey had 3 for 22. Njoku had 4 for 26. Added in the touchdown to save his day. The kickers, Matt Prater did not attempt to kick because, well, you need to score. Dustin Hopkins, I guess that's kind of a disappointing game for him. He went in by my scoring. I think he was kicker 2. 2, yep, he's 2. So I guess 9 points doesn't kill you, but it was kind of a disappointing day. Nobody was playing the Cardinals, I don't think, so they didn't matter. The Browns, if you played them, they were awesome. That's 7 sacks. I wonder how many of those were Myles Garrett. So this was kind of the one-sided ass-kicking we expected it to be.
Yeah, and that's what they got rid of Dobbs, who we'll eventually talk about him either in this podcast or the next one. But Dobbs was killing it for Minnesota today, and we all expected this. Clayton Tune, he's a rookie, hasn't played at all in the NFL yet, so Kyler Murray, he's going to be back probably next week, and they're going to get James Conner back as well. So I think this offense is going to be much, much better, and they're also not playing Cleveland next week as well. So it's going to get better before it gets worse. But yeah, it wasn't much to expect from this team.
I'll tell you, I'm about to be 8-1 in my home Dynasty league, and I made a trade this morning that I really like now. I acquired Amari Cooper and I traded away George Pickens. And I'm happy that I got Cooper now. Like, I'm a contending team. I'm happy now that I got Cooper. But this morning it was more of a get George Pickens off my roster trade than it was a I like Cooper. So, I don't normally like to trade away the youth, but like I was always the George Pickens is going to lose his role, and then I was like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. And no, I was right. So it was just get this guy off my roster, and then it worked out. I was like, oh shit, Amari Cooper might actually be, a useful player for me. I think he was on my bench, but
if Watson's playing, man, Cooper is a stud. Like he loves to. He's his number one target by far. So, yeah, I think better day. The only thing we got to watch out for, Amari Cooper did get banged up in this one a little bit towards the end of the game. He caught a pass, ran off the field, and was like crouched down next to one of the trainers on the sideline. So, he wasn't down on the field or anything like that, but he was definitely banged up, and they were so far ahead that I think they might have shut him down at that point. But just something to monitor going forward with Amari Cooper.
Quick last question here. We'll move on because we're getting kind of tight on time. Think this moves Deshaun Watson back into the top 12 QB rankings for you?
It all depends if he's healthy. I mean, Arizona wasn't really a big test, so it all just depends. And you really need to see a consistency from Watson before he can get back up there. But I think he's a high-end QB2 for sure, minimum. But maybe if he can put on a consistent back-to-back performance, maybe he can get into the low-end QB1 for me again.
Who would have thought the Houston Texans and Tampa Bay Buccaneers would be the game of the year? But we have a 39-37 Texans win. C.J. Stroud with 470 yards and 5 touchdowns. Good God. Baker Mayfield has probably the best game of his career and gets doubled in points. Baker had 265 and 2. Good God, if you had anything, either quarterback, you're probably very happy. But you know what the funny part is? It might be – oh, no, it's not this league. It's the other league up here, right? Transit Dynasty. I have a friend who had both Stroud – who else went off here? Stroud, Dell, and Schultz in his lineup, and he's going to lose regardless.
I'm playing in my work redraft, my like home redraft league. I played against Stroud and Tank Dell this week, the stack, and I might be able to pull out the win just because my team is doing well. But I was like, dude, they had 75 points, the two of them. I was like, man, this is killer.
He has the 3 of them that put up a combined 90 in a start 12, and I think his team has a combined 121 or something. So he got 90 out of 3 guys and like 25 out of the other 9. But so we'll move on to Rachaad White finally does something. 73 yards, 2 touchdowns really helped. 4 for 46 in the passing game is nice. No one else on the Bucs running back room was useful. Over here on Houston, it wasn't a whole lot to be happy about. This was a pretty big passing game. 13 carries for 26 yards for Singletary. That's gross. Rachaad White was really the only useful running back. On the receiver side of the ball, we have some big stat lines. Noah Brown being the number 1 receiver in this game is not how I had it on my bingo card. 6 for 153 and 1. Dell has 6 for 114 and 2. So we got a lot of guys with touchdowns here. Holy shit, yeah. Another touchdown here for Nico. Then we've got no touchdowns for Evans. Evans has 4 for 85. Palmer 3 for 51. Godwin 2 for 16. So,
dude, Godwin killed me so bad this week, where I did have to start him. But I will say on Mike Evans really quickly, because I don't know if you saw this game or not, but he went down literally on the 1 yard line with a big bomb from Baker.
I did see that one. I see that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have him, as you can see. That's me in this league. I own him in this league, and I could have used that touchdown.
Right.
So there's a lot of production here from two of the guys you would expect on the Texans. Noah Brown came out of nowhere, and then we have mediocre production to bad production. So Evans didn't kill you, but he was the 4th best receiver in this game. That should tell you all you need to know. That Houston passing game was something else. Tight ends were both awesome. Cade Otton had 6 for 70 and 2 touchdowns. 26 points despite losing a fumble. Schultz has 32 points despite using a fumble. He had 10 for 130 and 2, so both tight ends were awesome. Chase McLaughlin was good. Fairbairn left with an injury, and I believe it was it Dara Gumbawale kicking for them?
Yeah, they basically just gave up on kicking field goals.
I seen that towards the end. They kneeled the extra point at the end of the game. I seen that's
just to not even give them a chance, because if you the turnover rule with the safety, you get a safety if you do it on the 2-point conversion. So they just weren't risking anything, but. Yeah, Ogunbowale actually did the kickoff after that touchdown. And he kicked it out of the back of the end zone. So the dude has a leg. It was crazy.
Someone on Houston had the under on 2.5. That's what it is. So we got Bucks and Texans. Both defenses killed you if you played them. Hopefully you did not. What's your big takeaway here, other than there was a lot of passing and a lot of scoring?
Yeah, I expected Houston to do well in the passing. Like Tampa's biggest weakness right now is you can throw on them pretty heavily. You can't run on Tampa at all. Like their front is dominant against the run, but they're really weak in the secondary against the pass. And I really did not expect all the touchdowns. Like I expected CJ to do well, but not 5 touchdowns in this game. But it was kind of disappointing on the Tampa Bay side. Like, everyone's talking about CJ Stroud and all this, and for being 37 points, Tampa was really underwhelming from a fantasy perspective. You had Baker be decent, Rashad White, but everyone else, Cade Otton was okay, but nobody other than myself, I doubt many people had to start Cade Otton this week.
I had to in a couple of Dynasty leagues I did.
Yeah. I had to start him in one because there's a super flex, and I traded Levis Wednesday night, and I didn't have a second quarterback with Kyler coming back next week. So
scored Levis.
yeah, I know. But so I had to start Cade Otton in my super flex, so I was happy about that. But yeah, it was kind of disappointing. You wanted more from Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in what was a great game, a really back and forth fun game, but they just kind of underwhelmed a little bit.
We will move on to a real barn burner here. Commanders beating the Patriots 2017. Sam Howell doing what Sam Howell does. He's good, then he's bad. He's good, then he's bad. I seen some of these. A couple of the drives, he looked awesome. Then he'd throw a turnover or fumble or whatever the hell it was. Throw an incompletion. 325 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I'm on the Sam Howell side, but his upside is going to continue to be limited by his inability to make good decisions. So 21 points didn't kill you. Mac Jones, 14 points, that did kill you. He's like the same shitty decision making as Sam Howell, except without any of the talent. So
and the weapons, our weapons are terrible. I'm a Patriots fan, and our offense is just
Running backs, we have pretty much not an even split. It's all in the receiving game. Okay. I was going to say, normally Brian Robinson's good in these game scripts, but
he also had a touchdown as well, to be fair.
Lost a fumble on it, but.
Yes, yep. But yeah, Brian Robinson was okay. He was chunking off some big runs. We're kind of weak against the run game, but Gibson was used a lot in the passing game, which was kind of nice to see. A little bit of a resurgence from him. People have been wondering where that's at for him all year, right?
Predictably, Ramondre Stevenson had a big game. Who would have thought you trade your entire defensive line and you can't stop the run? So 9 carries for 87 and a touchdown. Zeke had 6 more carries. Don't know why he's still involved, but he is. Gibson got a lot in the receiving game, 5 for 42. Robinson had 18 carries for 63 yards, a touchdown, but lost some of the points due to a fumble. So it's kind of not really a split there, but split in production. Obviously, Gibson's being used more as the pass catcher. Wide receivers, we had nobody really go crazy, but we had 3 or 4 guys who were useful. John Dotson, 4 for 69 and a touchdown. McLaurin, 5 for 73. Juju went 6 for 51. And Demario Davis, I almost said. Demario Douglas, sorry, I'm a Saints fan. Demario Douglas, the waiver wire darling of the week, had 5 for 55 and a carry. Is that what I'm reading? Yes.
Yeah, 1 carry for no yards. It was
yeah. So nobody was great. It's nice to kind of see Dotson actually do something, but him and McLaurin were, you'd think they'd be better because Samuel was out in this one. So you think?
Yeah, I will say New England's defense is pretty good. Our secondary is much improved, so we're a little bit harder to throw on. So that kind of explains Sam Howell's struggles, I guess. But that's
Sam Howell's struggles.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
We'll hurry up a little here because we got one more game left and we're kind of tight on time. Hunter Henry had 4 for 39 and a touchdown to have a good day. The touchdown saved him. Otherwise, his stat line would look pretty much like Logan Thomas, 4 for 31, which isn't terrible. 9 points for a tight end didn't kill you, but both kickers were mediocre as they have been all season. Patriots defense was all right. They had an interception, put up 9 points. The Commanders, hopefully you didn't have to play them. I think I did at some point. They thought. Thoughts here?
No, it was just, it was kind of a weird game. Defensive struggle, but it was what it was.
Moving on to one of the more interesting, confusing games. Unless you fire your entire coaching staff and things get crazy. Well, it did for the Raiders as they won 30-6 over the Giants. Aiden O'Connell was not great, 209 yards, useless for fantasy. Was it Tommy DeVito, Danny DeVito, Tommy DeVito? I can't remember. Like Tommy DeVito, that sounds like that sounds like Joe Pesci's character in Goodfellas, but it's right. That's right. So he was also not good. He was better than Aiden O'Connell, but that's not saying much. Daniel Jones left. He's on my injury list. It's too late. We don't really have much of an update, but it looks like they suspect he has a torn ACL, and I suspect that Daniel Jones is done for the year.
He might be done for life, man. I don't know, but that's a topic for another day.
Yeah, his upside was kind of his rushing, and torn ACL kind of limits that. But
right,
we'll move on to the running backs who look like they were the star. We had Barkley had 90 yards and then 3 catches for 23 yards. Josh Jacobs had 98 yards and 2 touchdowns. Both were good. Jacobs was really good, probably top 5, I'm going to say, based on that number. No other running backs were useful. Looks like we had 2 decent receivers here. Wandale had 4 for 35 and a touchdown for 13.5. Jacoby Myers also had 13.5. Is that a rushing touchdown? 1 carry, 17 yards, and a rushing touchdown.
Yeah, it was a jet sweep. They handed it off, and he took it 17 yards to the house. It was a fun one, but it just didn't even get touched really.
And nobody else did much of relevance. 4 for 59 for Slayton. 1 for what is that? 2 for 52 for Trey. I hate the way Sleeper writes this sometimes. 2 for 52 for Tucker. And the one thing I will say is the 1 catch I seen him make was beautiful. It was awesome. Devontae Adams with a big dud here, 4 for 34. That killed a lot of people.
Yep.
Michael Mayer kind of disappointed me. I thought he was on to something. 2 for 11. Same with Bellinger, 3 for 43. Nothing for Bullock. That's their kicker now. Was it Gano out?
Yeah, they fired whoever was their kicker last week. I forget what his name was.
They cut him? You're right.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Yep.
I'm going to have to write that down. I will have to update my sheets. I completely forgot that it's Randy Bullock.
I did too.
Not Graham Gano. Daniel Carlson had a decent day, which is good because if you've had him as your kicker, he's been bad. Raiders defense is great. These were 2 of the streaming defenses that I liked this week. One was a big hit. One was not a big hit. So
I thought the Giants defense was going to be much better than they were in this game. It was kind of disappointing, but when you're playing Aiden O'Connell and a revived team because they got rid of their terrible head coach, then, what can you do against it? So.
All right. Any other last minute takeaways here from this one before we wrap it up?
No, I just gotta say I was a little surprised, but maybe Aiden O'Connell is worse than for Devontae Adams than we kind of expected, but just something to kind of watch going forward because I don't know if you can rely on Adams moving forward. That scares me a little bit.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't great. That's for damn sure. All right. Well, I guess that's a wrap on the AFC side of things. So this was the NFL Week 9 Fantasy Football AFC game recap show. Thank you all for tuning into the Mad Science Lab podcast. Check back in a few minutes. We're going to head over to the NFC side of things. Thanks for watching, everyone.